The office mocked her for months, but they had no idea who she really was. Welcome to our storytelling channel, where every tale brings truth, justice, and heart to life. If you're new here, we're so glad you found us. Let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love hearing from our global community. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment. We have a powerful new story coming your way tomorrow, and trust us, you won't want to miss it. Settle in, get comfortable, and let the story begin. Emily Brooks never expected cruelty to come dressed in business casual. At just 28 years old, she was the newest data analyst at Summit Creative Group, a high-pressure marketing firm nestled in the heart of downtown Denver. With her thrifted cardigan, well-worn flats, and hair pulled into a practical ponytail, she stood out like a soft melody in a room of loud brass. The office buzzed with competition and cold elegance. Designer heels clicked across tile floors, and polished suits strutted past her desk without a glance. Emily was quiet, precise, and brilliant at her work, able to pull patterns from chaos and turn numbers into strategy. But none of that mattered to the clique that had already marked her as an outsider. They whispered behind their coffee cups and laughed a little too loudly when she walked by. Her only crime? She didn't dress like them. She didn't gossip at the espresso bar or post perfectly filtered selfies in the conference room. Leading the charge was Ashley Carter, a 34-year-old account manager with a voice like honey and words like venom. Ashley had a reputation: Gucci, bags, flawless blowouts, and a talent for passive-aggressive cruelty. From day one, she eyed Emily like she was a stain on the office aesthetic. "Cute sweater," Ashley had said during Emily's first team meeting, her eyes flicking over the pale gray knit. "My grandma has the same one. Vintage is back, I guess." The room had chuckled. Emily offered a faint smile, saying nothing. She wasn't here for fashion shows. She was here to work, to focus, and to quietly do her part in a company that didn't seem to want her. But Ashley wasn't alone. She had her loyal followers: Tyler Grant, a cocky 30-year-old sales rep who loved mocking others to feel taller, and Jenna Lee, a junior designer with an influencer's thirst for drama. By the end of Emily's first month, the trio had turned bullying into a daily sport. They mocked her tote bag, took photos of her lunch, and once Tyler loudly joked that he'd seen someone who looked just like her digging through a Goodwill bin. Emily bore it all with silence. Her hands trembled sometimes under the desk, but her voice remained steady. She typed through tears that never reached her cheeks, refusing to give them a show. She reminded herself day after day that she was here for the work, not their approval. Still, the weight was growing. The snide remarks, the eye rolls, the smirks, it all built up like a storm waiting to break. And Emily, though kind, was not without strength. She would endure the worst of them. But what none of them knew, what no one in that gleaming glass office suspected, was that Emily Brooks wasn't just a quiet analyst in a worn-out sweater. She was Emily Pierce, wife of Lucas Pierce, billionaire CEO of the very empire that owned their company. And that revelation was coming sooner than they could imagine. Friday afternoon had started like any other at Summit Creative Group. Emails flying, phones buzzing, fake smiles painted across faces. But for Emily Brooks, it felt like walking a tightrope over a pit. She couldn't see the bottom of, she sensed it. Something was off. Ashley Carter's fake laughter rang louder than usual. Tyler Grant kept glancing over his cubicle wall with a smirk he didn't bother to hide. Jenna Lee was whispering behind her phone, her thumbs tapping like she was narrating a countdown. Emily sat at her desk, fingers poised above the keyboard, trying to lose herself in a spreadsheet. But her gut twisted. Something was coming, and then it did. Ashley strutted over, her red bottom heels clacking like warning bells. In her hands was a can of Diet Coke, chilled and still fizzing. She stopped in front of Emily's desk, tilted her head, and smiled sweetly. "Oops," she said, popping the tab and deliberately tilting the can. The cold soda exploded across Emily's desk and chest, soaking her cardigan, splattering her reports. A collective gasp echoed through the open floor. Some people froze, others chuckled. Tyler whistled low, pretending to be impressed. Jenna let out a laugh and shouted, "Looks like laundry day came early." Emily stood, stunned, heart racing, drenched in sticky cola. She opened her mouth to speak, to plead maybe, but Ashley cut her off. "You looked a little dusty," she sneered. "Thought I'd help clean you up. Trailer trash shouldn't pretend to play in a penthouse." Tyler kicked her chair, nearly knocking it over. Jenna raised her phone, already filming, grinning wide. "This is gold," she hissed. "Say goodbye to your dignity, sweetheart." Emily's chest tightened. Heat crawled up her neck. Her fingers clenched into fists. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just turned and walked away, each step heavy, her soaked clothes sticking to her skin like shame. In the break room, Emily leaned against the counter, gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. She could hear the laughter echoing behind her like ghosts chasing her down. She opened her contacts. Her finger hovered over the name. Lucas Pierce. She hadn't wanted to involve him. This job was supposed to be hers, earned, not given. She'd never told anyone she was married to the man who owned the company. Not because she was ashamed, but because she was proud. Proud of the woman she was before his billions. Proud of the work she could do without a last name that shook boardrooms. But today broke her. She hit call. "M," his voice answered. Instantly, warm, steady, familiar. Her voice cracked. "Lucas, I can't. They poured soda on me. They shoved me. I can't anymore." There was silence on the line. Then came his reply, cold, calm, deadly clear. "I'm 10 minutes away. Don't move." He hung up, and for the first time in weeks, Emily exhaled. The storm wasn't just coming. It was already in the elevator. The break room clock ticked louder than usual, each second dragging as Emily Brooks stood motionless, her soaked cardigan clinging to her back like a second skin. Her heart pounded louder than the chatter outside. Her fingers still trembled from the call, but not from fear this time. From the office beyond the frosted glass, she heard it. Laughter. Ashley's high-pitched cackle. Tyler's smug voice tossing out another insult. Jenna shouting something about wet dog chic. They were still at it, still playing the same cruel game, blind to the fact that everything was about to change. Emily straightened up, wiped her hands, took one steadying breath and walked back toward her desk. The open floor fell quiet, not silent but thinner, the kind of hush that rolls in before a thunderstorm. Ashley turned, arms crossed, wearing a grin like a trophy. "Back already?" she said. "Thought you'd be halfway home crying into your Walmart pillow by now." Tyler leaned back in his chair, arms behind his head. Jenna raised her phone again. Brian Simmons, the team supervisor, peered out from his glass-walled office, his lips curling into a familiar smirk. Emily didn't answer. She sat, calm, still, hands flat on the desk. But her eyes were different now, steady, unreadable, like she was waiting for something. And then, it came. Ding. The elevator at the far end of the office opened with a chime that cut through the room like a blade. Heads turned, conversations stopped. A chill passed through the air that no one could quite name. Lucas Pierce had arrived. All 6 feet 2 inches of him stepped onto the floor in a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit. His stride was effortless, powerful, the kind that made people move out of the way without thinking. His dark hair was slicked back, his sharp jaw clenched. There was no warmth in his eyes, only storm. He didn't look around, didn't scan the room. He walked straight through the center of the office like he owned it, because he did, and stopped at Emily's desk. "Emily," he said, voice low and unwavering. "You ready to go?" The room held its breath. She looked up, her eyes softening, her voice calm. "Yeah, just need a minute." Ashley blinked. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Then, recovering fast, she pasted on a fake smile. "Mr. Pierce, we didn't know you were stopping by. I'm Ashley, account manager. Can I get you a coffee or—" He didn't even glance at her. Instead, Lucas turned and scanned the room, finally letting his voice rise. "Which one of you's been harassing my wife?" Silence. "Wife?" The word detonated in the middle of the office. People looked from Lucas to Emily, eyes widening, jaws dropping. Ashley staggered backward. Tyler stopped breathing. Jenna's phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a crack. Brian scrambled out of his office, tugging at his tie, panic setting in. Lucas's voice dropped again, low and sharp. "Emily Pierce, my wife, and from what I've heard, some of you forgot who you were dealing with." And suddenly, they all did. The silence after Lucas Pierce's words was deafening. No one moved. No one breathed. Ashley's fake smile had vanished, replaced by the pale horror of someone realizing their entire world had just cracked down the middle. Tyler's usual bravado evaporated, and Jenna stood frozen, her phone still on the floor, forgotten. Brian, ever the smug supervisor, was now sweating through his collar, eyes darting around like a man trapped with no exit. Lucas looked at each of them, slow and deliberate. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. That calm, commanding tone hit harder than any shout could. "So let me get this straight," he said, eyes narrowing. "You mocked her. You humiliated her. You poured soda on her, and not a single one of you thought to stop it?" No one answered. Lucas turned to Brian first. "You're the team lead, right?" Brian swallowed hard. Yes, sir. But I wasn't aware how serious." "You stood there and watched," Lucas cut in, his voice like ice. "You laughed. You failed your job. You're done." Brian's lips parted, but Lucas was already turning. "Ashley Carter," he said, flatly. She flinched. "You threw a drink on my wife, on my property, during business hours. What exactly was going through your mind?" Ashley's voice cracked. I didn't know she was—" "Does that matter?" Lucas snapped. "Would it have been okay if she wasn't my wife? You judged her because she didn't flaunt designer shoes, because she didn't fit your twisted idea of worth." Ashley opened her mouth again, but Lucas wasn't finished. "Tyler Grant, Jenna Lee, you joined in. You filmed it. You laughed. You pushed her. You mocked her online." Jenna finally broke. "Mr. Pierce, please, this is all a misunderstanding. We were just messing around. It wasn't serious." Lucas stepped forward and her words died. It was serious to her. He turned slightly, addressing the entire office now. "Let me make myself very clear. This is not just about my wife. It's about every decent person who ever sat at their desk and got torn down for not being loud, flashy, or cruel. That ends today." Then he faced the group directly. "Ashley Carter, Tyler Grant, Jenna Lee, Brian Simmons. You're all fired. Effective immediately. Security's already on their way up. Don't bother cleaning out your desks. You'll be escorted out." A gasp rippled through the room. Lucas added, "And don't bother applying anywhere else in this city. My name will follow yours. I will personally make sure every HR director knows exactly what you did." Panic set in. Ashley looked like she might faint. Tyler's face turned red with rage, but he stayed silent. Jenna's eyes welled up with tears, hands shaking. Brian collapsed into his chair, defeated. At that moment, the elevator dinged again. Two uniformed security officers stepped into the room like a final period at the end of a brutal sentence. Emily rose from her chair, calm and graceful, and walked to stand beside Lucas. She said nothing. She didn't have to. Her silence spoke, louder than any scream. As the security guards moved across the floor, tension snapped like a brittle wire. One by one, they approached the now exposed bullies. Ashley's knees buckled as she grabbed her desk for support, her voice trembling. "You can't do this. I've worked too hard. I own the board that owns this company," Lucas replied. Without flinching, "I can do whatever the hell I want." The guards took her by the arms. She didn't resist, but she wept. Ugly, messy tears that came too late. Tyler cursed under his breath, but even he didn't fight it. He was escorted out, his false swagger in pieces. Jenna tried pleading, stammering about misunderstandings and learning experiences, but the guards didn't listen. Brian Simmons didn't even argue. He stood like a ghost, eyes hollow, accepting the fall he'd earned. The rest of the office watched in stunned silence, a mix of shock, shame, and uneasy relief hanging in the air. Some had laughed with the bullies, others had watched in silence. No one had spoken up, and now none of them could forget what silence had cost. Emily stood beside Lucas, her cardigan still damp, but her expression dry and composed. She looked around, not at the people being dragged out, but at those who had stayed quiet. Her hazel eyes weren't angry. They were knowing, quiet, strong, and for many watching, it was the first time they truly saw her. The elevator doors closed behind the last of the four. Only then did Lucas finally turn to Emily, his voice softer, calmer. "You ready to go home?" She nodded. "Yeah, let's go." Emily didn't return to Summit Creative Group after that day. There was no email, no grand farewell. She didn't need it. Her legacy didn't come from revenge, it came from resilience. A week later, she quietly launched her own consulting business, helping small local companies manage data and growth with the same brilliance that once went unnoticed. She never needed validation. She just needed space to grow. And now she had. Yet Ashley, Tyler, Jenna, and Brian quickly discovered just how far Lucas Pierce's reach went. Recruiters stopped returning calls. Interviews got canceled without explanation. Word spread like wildfire. They were blacklisted. By the time Ashley tried to post a teary apology on LinkedIn, no one was listening. Tyler bounced from temp jobs, bitter and aimless. Jenna vanished from social media. Brian was never seen in the industry again. Meanwhile, Emily thrived, not because of her last name, but in spite of how much it had been hidden. One quiet Friday evening, she sat with Lucas on their penthouse balcony overlooking the Denver skyline. The air was cool. She was wearing a soft, oversized sweater and sipping tea. "You didn't have to destroy them," she said gently, her voice almost lost in the wind. Lucas kissed her temple and replied, "They destroyed themselves. I just made sure they felt it." She smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the city lights. She had been mocked, humiliated, and doubted, but she walked through fire with her dignity intact, and that was more powerful than revenge could ever be. This story wasn't just about humiliation and power, it was about quiet strength, dignity, and the moment the world finally saw the truth behind a simple woman's silence. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked, dressed, or stayed quiet instead of fighting back? Have you ever watched someone rise from the ashes of cruelty with nothing but grace? Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from, and what part of Emily's story spoke to you the most. Was it her patience, her humility, or that final moment when justice arrived, not with fists, but with facts and quiet authority? Your voice matters, and we'd love to hear your perspective. If this story moved you, made you angry, inspired you, or reminded you of someone in your life, share it. Let's turn this channel into a place where voices are heard and dignity is celebrated. And don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's story might just be the one you need most.